Welcome to this early edition, Friday edition of DevOps Paradox Live. Are you awake yet?
I am.
Oh, you
Been
are.
already for 2 hours, maybe 3 even.
Yeah, I don't remember when did I get up? I got up 4 hours ago, so I'm more than awake. Just got back from the shower, all ready to go. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you don't know who we are, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor. And we're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this show. Usually a little bit later in the day, but I have some conflicts today, so we moved it up. And we're going to talk about the news and whatever else we ran into this week. Normally, we get drinks out, but it's a little
Too
early.
early. Too early even for me.
So water. You have your Pepsi.
Yep.
We've talked about this before. Why Pepsi instead of Coke?
I know this because this came with the food that I ordered. I prefer Coke.
Okay.
But
That's
whatever has sugar in coffee in is good.
There you go. Getting into this week, the podcast this week was there a podcast this week? Yeah, there was.
There was. Now ask me what it was and you will run into trouble.
Yeah. Should everything be automated? I just couldn't remember what it was. Should everything be automated? Our quick answer was yes, and that was the end of the show. and then it continued on for about another 30 minutes. So hopefully if you haven't listened to that yet, go ahead and go listen to it. One thing too, just as an aside, last week's live stream went out fine live, but then for whatever reason, YouTube, I'm going to say they took it down. I think it was more of a problem. Technically, not so much that we did something wrong. It's just because I could never trim off the front 10 minutes, and I don't know why. And then all of a sudden it disappeared. So if you were wanting to see last week's episode, I actually uploaded it again yesterday for this. So hopefully that won't happen with this one, because that was unplanned work for me. There was no space for that on my Kanban board. But I made space. Okay, let's get into the news for the week. If I can find the button. There it is. They've changed the UI, and I'm having to get used to the new UI. First thing up, something that we typically don't talk about a whole lot, at least this part of AWS, is Direct Connect. But I put this in here because 100 gig dedicated, not bonded 10 gig pipes, a full 100 gig pipe. Holy cow. That's a lot of bandwidth.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about this before we started, but we didn't talk about this. The increased capacity delivered by blah, blah, blah is particularly beneficial. Now, anytime I read something like this tells me there's already people that needed this. And this is the reason why they probably went down this path, meaning AWS. So large scale data sets. Well, no duh, 100 gig pipe. Come on, that's large scale. But broadcast media distribution. I come from the old days to where tapes used to be sent out. And then it moved to satellite. But now it's internet. Right? So distribution. Okay, so for most of us, we don't care about that unless you're in that space. But the rest of these are interesting. Advanced driver assistance systems used for autonomous vehicles, and financial trading and market information systems. All of this, these last two, is effectively IoT on steroids. Even financial services training, I consider that now IoT, just for the sheer amount of data.
Yeah. But it's not also only about whether you need 100 gigs, but it's also, about stability, reliability, and all those things. Like,
Yeah.
When you buy a car that goes 200 miles per hour, you will never go that speed. But driving 100 miles per hour in that car is still much better than the one where that is a maximum speed, right?
Yep. You'd rather have the capacity in case you needed that extra, well, what could you use Spinal Tap? I want to be able to go to 11, but most of the time I'm just at 8.
Exactly.
But I need that 11. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about. It was just, the number was, to me, huge because they have it already in 1 in 10, and now they have 100. Let's talk about more things that we typically talk about with AWS. And that's EKS 119 came out this week.
Yeah.
So that's good. They're on about their right cadence. Nothing real exciting there. Whoops, there we go. So now all the cool 19 things are there. But, dun dun dun, 15 support. So if you're still on 15, this is your first warning, and probably only warning. 15, May 3rd, sayonara.
But to me, the curious thing is how, from the perspective of Kubernetes versions supported in different cloud providers, how the tables turned around. And now it's Google who is more behind from the versioning perspective. Right now, whether that's good or bad, that's a separate discussion. But Google is on 118. EKS, AWS and Azure are on 119.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke about it like half a year ago, how AWS is so much behind from versioning perspective compared to others. And now it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's good. And I don't want them to be there day one. No, please don't. That's just like that. Let Linode, DigitalOcean, let them be day one type or day two type people. The big three, take your time. Get it right.
Exactly.
Speaking of getting it right, OIDC, now available in EKS. How big of a deal is this to you?
I think it is. Not necessarily. I mean, especially for other providers, because that's basically a standard everybody's building on top of. And I'm not very fond. I mean, you as well. We are fond of open standards, instead of proprietary stuff. And OIDC or whatever it's spelled is good news.
Yeah. Well, and it gets to the point of, and they call it out in this first paragraph, using the standard procedures in your organization for creating, enabling, and most importantly, disabling employee accounts. How many times do you just create a local user and that local user leaves? Now their credential, even though they may not be able to get in, that credential is still there, and that's not a good thing in general. So OIDC now available for, now I'm trying to remember, 16 and above, which makes sense since 15 is going away.
Yeah, why would you?
So, yeah, it made no sense to do it there. And we'll get to a few other things here. Okay. Next up, GetIstio. Now this came through one of my feeds, and I put it in because I was like, really?
What does it do? I'm not familiar with it.
So basically,
Istio?
Effectively, it's like we've launched a new open source project called GetIstio today, giving users the easiest way to install and upgrade Istio. This feels very much like the Elastic angle without it being nasty. It's like this company has created a hardened version of Istio.
Okay. So
means.
So it's not just installation of Istio; it is hardened Istio.
Right. Whatever that means. Right. And then it'll have integrations with certificate managers, which may be cool. But I did not have time to go through there. This is interesting, though. I did see this because I've dealt with this in the day job. It includes a FIPS compliant flavor. And for people that care about FIPS, they really care about FIPS when it gets to it. So, I don't know.
When you go down, kind of basically they're providing commercial version of that. But is that enough, really? That's, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Sounds fishy to me.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
not fishy. Fishy is wrong word, but
Yeah.
kind of failed attempt in a way.
Well, they've got their version of Istio, which is full community. But then they also have a subscription, which gets you access to experts, support, bug fixes in theory, and 24/7 support.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, now when I think about it, why not? Basically, that's almost like a simple way to say we're giving you what most providers are giving. We're giving you basically what Red Hat is giving you for other products, just in a very simple way.
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with this. And in fact, if Istio is going to be the winner, or one of the winners when it's all said and done, and there wasn't any kind of support around it, commercial support, because you and I both know a lot of people, the only reason they'll buy open, or quote unquote buy open source, is because they have to.
Yeah.
So now this gives people an opportunity to get Istio support and pay for it and keep their auditors or whoever else happy.
But here's the thing. I don't think that many people in the future, now maybe, but I don't think that many people will be choosing whether to use Istio or Linked. It will simply be part of Kubernetes platform. You know, when you buy OpenShift, it comes with this. When you buy EKS, it comes with that, right? Not necessarily today, but that's where it's going. So it's going to be part of the Kubernetes platform you chose in a way, and it will go through the subscription of that Kubernetes platform.
Right. This is covering those people that don't want to pay for a subscription for the platform, but want help with the mesh.
Exactly. Yeah. No, why not? Yes.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So.
No.
Okay. What's up next? Oh, this was an interesting thing. It's a curated collection of resources on how organizations are doing SRE. And it's sort of weird how he did it here, but it's like, okay, how is Airbnb doing that? Well, they've got blog posts of how they're doing that. Or if I wanted to see how Fastly is doing something, right? There's videos for them. Or Google, let's see how long that is. Okay, they've got the books and training and videos and everybody else. So if you're playing, as much as we like to say there is no such thing as DevOps, there is such a thing as SRE.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is such a thing as DevOps as well, but SRE is a technical aspect, let's say, of the story.
Yeah.
And yes, that definitely is SRE.
So this is a very interesting site just to keep up with the things, whatever the things are. So.
But you know, one thing that I dislike about lists like this is that they're like basically somebody's bookmarks, and that's quite okay. But to me, that's already overwhelming. Somehow more curated. I don't know. Put few stars, kind of like good, bad, something, right? That to help me navigate. Maybe I will one day in the future when I'm retired read all this, but I'm almost certainly not going to read all that now.
Right.
And kudos to the guy who collected it. I assume that he read all that. Well done. Amazing. I'm impressed.
So 7 contributors right now, and he does have a call out here. Note to readers, this list refers to some of the XYZs published before 2015. So just, hey, this is just a list in case you're trying to find something. At least this is a place to start. And then it's like, oh, I can go down deeper. Or it's like, oh, I'm looking for a conference on that SREs matter about. Okay, well, the SRECon past events or ChaosConf. Oh, okay, I hadn't even heard of those two. So, but anyway, I thought it was interesting. And this is the other reason why I put it here, how they test. So this was inspired from how they test. And it's the same thing, it's just a variation of how does Apple test?
Yeah.
whatever. So
Nice.
again, bookmark site, but useful to us. Okay, let's get into some of the tools of the week. eksctl came out, not surprisingly, since 19 came out. It shipped with OIDC support. It added support for 19. What I noticed a while back is they had been slower in releasing when the new version came out. But this time they were almost day of, which was nice. But there wasn't anything major here other than obviously the OIDC support for 19. And then there was one improvement that I saw that I thought was interesting, but now I don't see it. I don't remember which one it was now. But anyway.
It's not necessarily bad. It's very often a good thing that there are no significant changes. That means that it's actually doing most of the things that most people need.
Yeah. So eksctl out, use it. Going back to one of our reviewed dashboards, this was interesting. 4.0 and 4.1 actually both came out this week. But 4.1 followed up, I think it was the day after 4.0 came out. They did a lot of performance improvements. I haven't tried it out yet. But Lens was on your OK list, right? It's been a while, but...
It's just another dashboard.
Yeah.
It's okay. There is nothing bad about it, but also nothing especially good, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like to be... I like to see something... Actually, I think there is a lot of value in having something boring but very polished, and that's what Lens is. It's the most polished, probably, dashboard there is. There is nothing that makes it stick from the crowd, but everything is really nice and polished. So that is a good thing.
Okay, so we'll move on from Lens. KubeHelper. Now, there's other ways to do this, and this is a newer project, and it says its tagline is simplifies many daily Kubernetes cluster tasks through a web interface. And it goes through all the different features, and just from this one screenshot alone, there's a lot of noise there, which is good. It's data that you need, but it's really noisy, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was my first impression when I saw it as well, that simply it's as if somebody decided to throw everything they can think of into a web UI, which I think we need to go into. The problem is quite the opposite. The problem with Kubernetes in general is there is a lot of everything. There is a lot of noise. And I favor those who manage to actually filter the noise for me, not to increase it, to be honest.
Yeah. The upside is it, unlike Lens or any of the other desktop apps, at least this one is in cluster. That's
that's a big point. To be honest, I'm not sure why. It seems that there is a overwhelming majority of popular Kubernetes dashboard types are desktop, and I'm not sure why are we going down that road in general.
Yeah, I don't really understand. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Again, this is a newer release. You can see, I mean, today's the 19th of February, and so this is still fairly active, which is good. And there was an accompanying blog post to go through all of this as well. But again, there was so much white space here. It's like, okay, I don't have time to read this. Because it just kept going and going and going, just like a typical Medium post does. But I mean, if you're trying to find a dashboard and you don't have a dashboard today, now the one thing here that I didn't see that I've seen with a lot of the desktops is this appears to be a read-only.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. That's okay. If that's the
So
case,
right here, so by default, it's installed with read and view permissions. Therefore, you will not break anything using the default settings. Now, you could change it. Fair
cool.
enough. But out of the box, it's read-only.
Now I'm liking
That's okay, right? It's just
exactly. It should. I always felt that things should have sane defaults, and to me, sane default is read only for this type of things. And hey, you want to change it? Go ahead. Big bonus.
yeah. But it says you can change the cluster role all the way up to cluster admin. Fair enough, right? That's
Exactly.
versus hey, it comes in cluster admin, and if you want to, you can make it read only. No, that's so
Exactly.
because that would never happen. Okay. So KubeHelper, that's that. Orion. The reason why I dropped this in, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but the reason why I put it in was they're using HCL to write acceptance tests. And it follows Gherkin. So let me open up the documentation. The way they propose it is it was created to simplify the way we write acceptance tests. Looking at this does not look very simplistic.
Not only that, it doesn't also look like acceptance tests, or maybe not how I perceive them, right?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about some unit level testing, whatever unit is in your, I'm going to write that in whichever language I'm writing the code for those tests, period. Yeah. If I'm writing in Go, I'm writing tests in Go. If I'm writing in Java, I'm writing tests in Java, period. Yeah. The only use case I can imagine for something like this is, hey, when you want to do something that is more on a system level, right? Kind of, we're not concerned about specific application because that's the application is going to use whichever language application is using. We are concerned about the system, and then it could be anything, and why not HCL? Now, I'm not saying that HCL is good or bad, but then I can say, why not?
Yeah.
So but here's now...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But the examples are more like unit level tests when I look at them than what I was referring to, right? So that's very confusing to me.
Yeah, let me go deeper into one of these. Let's do a scenario example because that sounds scarier. Yeah, these look very unit test.
Exactly. I have a theory that is based on absolutely no data, no information. This to me seems the reflection of that disconnect between testing and development. As you know, when those are completely separate activities. So I'm actually trying to figure out how tests make sense to write. For me, as a person who writes tests, completely being disconnected from the person who writes application code. That's how that sounds to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to make some sense out of this, and I'm not getting there. The other thing that's I want to go back and check something else. Hang on. Where are we? We're here. So this is under MIT, but the examples don't have any kind of license associated with it. That's not horrible, but probably just an oversight. But hey, you know, if you're not happy with, again, this syntax is inspired to Gherkin. If you haven't used Gherkin in the past, that'll be another mind-bending thing. And it looks like it's just a guy working on it, a single guy. So let's be nice.
Yeah.
But HCL is an interesting, let's put it that way. HCL is an interesting, what's the word I'm looking for?
Abomination. That's probably not the word you were looking for.
It's not the word I was looking for. It was an interesting choice. because but I also don't write HCL day in and day out. So, okay, so that was the examples. Okay, here we go. This one you seemed excited about. It's a DSL way to create your graphs. You want more of this. You're muted if you're talking.
Yes, I was muted. Yes, I was. Until now, I was thinking to myself, okay, Darin, go faster through the news. Boring. I want this one. This one is cool. This one is amazing. I haven't spent much time, but limited time I was spending mostly while waiting until this happens. This is awesome. I already love it. After 15 minutes with it, I love it. I think I'm going to use that one exclusively now for my own purposes.
Okay, so let's see what's covered here. We've got AWS, we've got Azure, we've got GCP, we've got generic Kubernetes, and then just some generic.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that can be extended. I mean, it's open source, right?
Yeah.
There is a link there to the GitHub repo, so you can add whatever else. At the end of the day, it's mostly about adding association between some name, GCP this and icon.
Yep.
So if you have icons that are not there, you can add them.
Yeah. And when we were first talking about this, you were sort of staring at it going, man, this is hard. I went, okay, I said, ignore all the stuff at the top and just look at lines 18 and 19, which is probably really hard to see here. And that's going to go out. But basically it says creating the edges. That word has always seemed strange to me. It's like creating the flow is the way I look at it. It's like, okay, users,
yes,
go to DNS, go to CF. Well, what's CF? Well, CF was defined up here, CloudFront. Goes to load balancer, goes both ways, double, arrow on both ends to the auto scaling group. But then also CF goes to S3. So in a natural, if you look at what line 18 is, it's basically going through users, going through DNS, going to CDN, down to load balancer, and then two ways to the ASG. And then another line takes me just from CF to S3. If you can figure that part out, this will quickly become your friend, I think.
Yeah,
if you have to do a lot of drawings.
I made some tests and very quick ones, right? And I felt that from the start I was faster than if I was dragging and dropping and drawing and choosing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just choosing the icon. Let's say that you go to draw Y or something, right?
Yeah.
And you need to find CloudFront. You're going to go through some search and then this and that. Here there is code complete, right? If you start typing like up there, AWS dot and first letter, let's say that you want something, right?
Yeah. So let's say I'm going for Alexa. There's ALB.
Exactly.
Okay.
There you go, right? Or Alexa, this. It's so fast to find exactly what you want through code complete. Put some name. Alexa for business, exactly. Put some name and semicolon, and that's it. And then you just go down and let's say edit after S3, right? There you go. Exactly.
So add it after S3. So what I'm going to do is do this.
Exactly. There we go. Right, that's fast.
Holy
and
cow.
this is the first contact, I'm assuming, or second contact or third, but you haven't spent probably days.
No, I haven't. All I did was create the link. I didn't even do as much as I just did.
Exactly. And you probably already did this faster than you would do if you went to draw Y. And then, drag and drop the arrow and then connect one point here, the other point there. It's so fast. It's amazing.
That is cool. And it's like, oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, well, I just go do this. Now, the question is, how could I put this into a Git repo and pull it in? I don't know. I don't know that you could, unless you were running your own.
Yeah, you would probably need to copy and paste type of stuff.
Copy and paste, well, which is okay, right?
It's not the end of the world, yeah.
But then also, if you didn't see it here, there's a copy link, and there's also, you can create a PNG off of this.
Yeah. And what does the save do? Is it saving PNG or?
Let's see.
Probably saving
yeah,
PNG.
it saves the PNG.
But
and then if I, oh, you can, or oh, that's what it is. So it's PNG or JPEG, and then you click save.
Yeah,
That's all
but
it
I
is.
don't know whether they did that. PNG can contain code inside the image. Like when you save in draw.io, PNG, you can or export to PNG, you can open that PNG and it will contain all the internal code and definitions and stuff.
Right.
Now, I don't know whether they support this, but that would be awesome.
They have a WordPress example. That's scary.
I mean, that code is scary, looks scary to write. But now go back to the image and tell me how scary it would be to actually draw all this.
That would be a pain, because you look at how the grouping is happening, and you can nest the groups. And if you think about it, it sort of makes sense. I've got a group for a region. Within a region, I've got a VPC. Within VPCs, I have subnets. I have an app subnet and a data subnet. Then I have a second AZ. So if you think about how you would typically write this out, I could quickly create my group structure to begin with, and then come back in and start filling in the pieces.
Oh,
This is...
but here's a killer feature missing.
Okay.
Imagine if you could export to Terraform. And I don't mean export to Terraform with all the details, but you get the structure, right? That then you fill in with all the argument specifics that are not in this diagram, right? But imagine if you could export this to Terraform, or if you could...
If there was a button up here that said export to Terraform, or export, and then you select sort of like how your images are here.
Yes.
Or you just add Terraform right here.
Or import from Terraform. Imagine if it could convert Terraform
into a picture.
Into a picture. That would be amazing.
Well, it is open source.
Now, Terraform, if I remember correctly, allows you to generate some graph, but that's the ugliest thing I've seen in my life, so I'm ignoring it.
Yeah. So it looks like, so there was a commit yesterday. It looks like it was a Firestore change. What did they do? Oh, I missed whatever it was. Anyway.
I'm so impressed that we should invite that guy into our podcast.
Okay. Well, there's two guys. Two people? Let's see. No, one person.
Yeah.
Appears.
The other one was added as contributor because the first one hoped that he would contribute after something, but he didn't.
Yeah, you should reach out to this guy and see. I thought it was just super cool because as much as we love code, we both hate drawing. Like, I mean, Draw.io is better than, what was the Microsoft? Visio, right? But now, of course, you could always create XML documents to generate the Visio diagrams. You could, but it was painful. At least here, this DSL is at least pretty reasonable. Yeah.
And it saves me, in my case, the most painful part is adjusting things, You start with 3 boxes and then you add the 4th one and then you realize that you need to make it bigger for things to fit and smaller because there's too much space. And I tend to spend half of my time when drawing, reorganizing that drawing as I'm progressing than actually really putting boxes and connecting them with arrows. Yeah. That might be just me though. But
no, it's relayout is a pain. Vladislav, thank you for joining us today. We missed you here. Of course, we got everybody in. We tripped everybody up this week, being 5 hours earlier. So this is cool. If you're stuck having to do drawings, now the downside to this, I will say that there is a downside, is I can't, if I did want to move things around, I can't.
You can.
Well, technically, you can move it around. Okay, I'm wrong. But I can't, from what I can tell, I can't actually codify that.
Yeah, you cannot codify that, yes. But I think I'm not really.
It's okay.
I'm more
right?
concerned whether the way how it is organized is logical to whomever is watching it, right? I honestly don't care whether that green thing is going more towards left or more towards right, as long as it's clear that it comes from CDN.
Yeah. And the thing I just noticed too, when I deleted that Alexa object, you see it forces a relay out even if I changed it. So
yeah,
if there's a downside, that would be the downside.
But ultimately, this is not for people who tend to spend a lot of time making it pretty.
Right. Not
this
pixel
is more
perfect.
for people making it.
Yeah. This doesn't need to be a pixel perfect drawing. Or if you get all the objects in, then you do your read layout and then you export it. Right? That would be just what you have to do. Let's see, is there anything else? Nope, there isn't. Label positions. Oh, you can position where the labels go. That's nice.
Yeah.
But as far as any other kind of positioning, you're toast.
Yeah. Those things, I feel that if I would start thinking about all those attributes, where to position this, where to position that, then I might start going crazy and go back to draw.io.
Yeah. Well, if you get to that point, you'd have to, I think, which is okay. That's fine. Okay, let's. I've spent a lot of time there, which also means all of my tabs got filled in. Okay, so that was CloudGram. There we are. Oh, Squealer. This seems like a redo of something that has already been done a number of times. Telling tales on you for leaking secrets. It scans a local Git repository for secrets that are being added into the commit history. And it's only checking for a handful of things right now, but add this into your CI process. Off you go.
What to me is most surprising there is that when you go to the list of secrets that it detects, that was near the top, one of them is GitHub token.
Yep.
And GitHub is precisely the service that is doing that already.
Right.
I assume that not all of I'm not that familiar. I don't know whether Bitbucket is doing that, whether GitLab is doing that, and so on and so forth. So I somehow would guess that this is very useful for those who use Git distributions that do not do that. And that's why I'm surprised that GitHub token is on a list. That's because I'm not sure whether there is any value for GitHub users in this. For some other Git users, probably, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it just shows that sometimes we do stupid things and we check in our credentials.
Yes.
You've never done that, right?
I did it quite a few times. And then because sometimes in videos or books or courses or what's not, I need to give people ability, let's say, hey, if you create this, then it will post a message on our Slack, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple of times those changes were rejected by GitHub. And then I learned to actually add characters into all my secrets that I do want to push. Yep. And then there is a set command to remove those add characters.
Yeah. Anyway, Squealer, just in case. All right. Let's get to the videos for this week. Linode. You seemed happy about Linode still.
Yeah, and I'm using it now almost daily. Basically, I'm using it for all my for all the things I play with and all the demos and stuff like that. And I see no reason not to be honest, for that type of tasks. Yeah. Now, where it's a bit...
So if you're using it daily, do you set up and tear down daily? Or are they charging per...
Yeah.
So
I
do they charge per hour or per minute?
I have no idea.
I don't
to be
remember.
honest.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I just remember as you
But
went through that, it was like it was $30 for the month for
Yeah,
whatever the example
exactly.
was.
For $30 for 3 nodes, I don't remember the size, which is very, very, very reasonable. So reasonable that I did not even bother to check whether they charge per minute or hour, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the fuzzy area, and it's extremely fast, and I love it. It's simple. The fuzzy area is, when we start talking about not me using it for personal reasons, but in a context of a company, how good or not Linode is. Meaning, you're a bank, you're not going to use Linode almost certainly.
Right.
You're a bigger company, probably not. But if you're a startup or 50 people company, 100, why not?
Yeah.
That's kind of, at the end of the day, the real question is, how much are you willing to pay for reliability? Let's not kid ourselves. Linode is not as reliable as the big guys. You cannot, for example, you cannot spread your Kubernetes cluster into multiple zones within the same region so that if a zone goes down, you're still available. You cannot do that. But there is a price to pay for that, right? And the real question is whether that price is worth paying. For bigger guys, bigger enterprises, that's almost certainly a price that makes sense paying. But if you're a startup, if you're a smaller company, would you pay, let's say, instead of $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, so that you avoid potential downtime that would be measured in, I don't know, like hours, right? Downtime.
Well, I would. I'd pay $5,000. If I was an enterprise, I would.
Yeah, if you're enterprise, exactly. But let's say that you're just starting your company.
Oh, starting up? Yeah, it's fine. I would
Exactly.
What I would do in this case, let's say that your example in the video was $30 a month, and let's say I could run 90% of my workload on that size of a cluster. I would spin that up in two separate, in their word, it was region, but it's really different data centers, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
and I would
apart.
And I would do some sort of global load balancing to route traffic to the hot and warm data center. Right? It would just, because that would still end up being cheaper than going to AWS. Yes, I would have had to architect a little bit more, but
you would also have problems with transferring data. There is always some database, something. But, my summary would be, if the price is right for what you need, why not?
Yeah.
And here's the main argument, I think, something that we didn't have before, and that is that if you are using Kubernetes, the price of switching to something else is lower than before Kubernetes. Meaning that it's pointless. Some people would say, hey, actually, this makes a lot of sense for me to pay 5 times less to have even faster service, but potentially slightly less reliable. But I'm not going to use it because what if 3 years from now, I need to switch to AWS? And to me, that argument is problematic because it's not necessarily always valid, right? There is nothing wrong running today in Linode, tomorrow in AWS, and day after tomorrow in Google, if you are Kubernetes-based shop.
Absolutely. Because there's the example I'm thinking of right now is I need to use, there's 2 examples I'm thinking of. First off is a developer cluster. My production runtime lives in one of the big 3 or a variation of that. But my development cluster doesn't need to be in the big 3 unless I'm getting a lot of free stuff. If you're creating software for Kubernetes, you probably, as a developer, you might need your own cluster, not just a namespace in the cluster, but a full cluster that you have full control over.
Yeah.
If you do that in AWS, actually any of the big three now, they all charge for control plane. That's $50 to $75 a month just for the control plane.
Exactly. Why not give everybody a cluster for the same price?
For less.
You get the cluster. You get the cluster exactly for less.
And if you break it, okay, so what? You redeploy it. Who cares? Especially as fast as Linode is.
Exactly.
And not only, and here's the other thing that makes it critical too, I think. Okay, my second use case was where you need to have ephemeral clusters. And that's probably going to be a thing. But let's say that you need to have, you've built out this training platform that you want to run on Kubernetes. But it's only going to be up for 2 or 3 days. Depending on who the training is for, you might want to be on AWS. But if it's a, hey, we're just testing this out to see if we really want to build this out even bigger, then Linode may be your better choice. Exactly. Again, it's that risk reward thing. What's the okay? Would I look? So let's say it this way too. The upside of Linode is they're in a bunch of different localities. AWS is as well. But let's say I'm doing my training and I'm used to putting everything in US East. And let's say I'm getting ready to put something over I'm getting ready to do training over in Singapore. Well, the Singapore region doesn't have the version of EKS that I need yet because they're slow rolling it for whatever reason. But let's say Linode's got something in Singapore too. Well, I can put it up over in Singapore and it's out there for 2 days and then I tear it down. Done. Final point on this. If I've proven that I can do my development and I can actually run in Linode or any other environment, and then my production runtime is running fine in one of the big three, I've also risk mitigated because, hey, I built it in environment X and deployed it in environment Y and everything was fine. So I should feel better if I add in a environment Z or Z.
Exactly. You're kind of, if I understood right what you're saying, basically at the same time you're proving that you're making things provider agnostic, right? At least hosting provider agnostic, and why not? Exactly.
So Linode.
There is nothing. This is the fight I often have with when speaking with some companies, because my logic is there is nothing. It's not a mandatory, but there is nothing wrong in diversity. There is nothing wrong with, you don't have to have only one provider for something. You don't have to have only one software for one type of something, right? Diversity is okay.
Does it mean it might be more work? Yes. But?
Yeah, but you don't, that's the thing. You don't introduce diversity for no good reason, right?
Right.
It's just for the sake to be diverse. That makes no sense to me. But if somebody let's say that I have a company that is using AWS, just for the sake of argument, and some team wants to put their development environments on Linode, I must assume that there is a value in that justifies it, right? And then I see nothing wrong with it.
Even if that value is only purely dollars.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
that team, I don't think that there is even strong need for, let's say that if I'm not member of that team, I'm somebody else in a company, why would I even think about it too much? That team sees value in Linode, they go for Linode. I love that whole idea of being responsible for something. You chose Linode, go with Linode. You chose the DigitalOcean, go with DigitalOcean. It's your job to figure out what makes you better and faster.
Yep. We're starting to run up on some time here. Crossplane.
Yeah, this is big, right? Linode was, to be honest, I love Linode, and I created video mostly because I needed something. I'm committed to making 2 videos a week, and this is what sucked all my time. And Linode was, okay, what the heck am I going to do? Oh, Linode, I forgot that I had it in my to-do.
Yeah.
Let's do it fast. This is awesome. Crossplane is absolutely awesome. I cannot say whether it's awesome enough for people to switch from Terraform to Crossplane, because there is a unavoidable significant difference in the support and size of community and number of modules and what's not. But Crossplane is the first infrastructure as tool that I've seen since Terraform that excites me.
And why do you
Really
say
excites
that?
me.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Couple of reasons. First, because I like the idea that I can use Kube API for everything. It could be one-stop shop for me. Hey, I want to list applications, kubectl get applications. I want to list clusters, kubectl get clusters, right? I want to see all the external storages, kubectl get external storage, right? I think that's very appealing idea for somebody who is very deep into Kubernetes. Being able to use Kubernetes API for everything is just fantastic. That's number one. I'm not sure how numbers I have, so I did not prepare for this. Number two is that I love the idea of being able, if it's something designed for Kubernetes, that among other things means that I can leverage Kubernetes ecosystem. Like right now, I'm very much focused on GitOps, Argo CD, Flux. Being able to manage my resources with Argo CD and Flux is a huge thing. Now, somebody listening to this might not be into Argo CD or Flux, might be into something else, but still the logic is the same. It's part of that ecosystem, and I can use ecosystem to enhance that something. And when I combine, in my case, Argo CD with Crossplane, the results are amazing. I get just what I need. I can push things to Git. I don't need to trigger some processes that will do something like equivalent of Terraform apply. I have Argo CD that is pulling it, converging the definitions from Git to what is in my cluster. And Crossplane does whatever it needs to do to make that infrastructure happen. And I think I had 3 things. I forgot what the third one is. I will probably remember.
That's okay.
Yes. It has a feature that we had in Chef and Puppet, but we lost in Ansible and Terraform. And that is that there is a daemon of sorts that is continuously monitoring the state of my infrastructure and making sure that it is exactly as it should be. Right? We don't have that with Terraform, at least not with open source, at least not that I know of. I might be wrong, right? So if I now create a cluster with 5 nodes, and I give you access to my cluster, and you add the 6th node, that change will be reverted soon afterwards. In Terraform, it will be reverted only next time I execute Terraform apply. Right? So if I would like that drift detection and automatic convergence of the different states, I would need to run probably Terraform like in some kind of a cron job, right? Every 5 minutes execute Terraform apply, if I would like to have that same feature.
Yep. I told a friend about this last night, and he was all over it. So I'll see if he does anything with it or not. I went, hey, you don't have to have a big cluster. And that was the other thing, too. Crossplane, you just need Kubernetes. Does that mean Minikube? Does that mean Raspberry Pi? Yeah, basically.
Like Docker Desktop. Everybody
Docker
has
Desktop.
Docker on their laptop. So you already have everything you need.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to throw in one thing that I didn't have on the notes. We did talk about it. The Jenkins Contributor Summit is next week. And to our friends in the Jenkins community, if you're interested in getting involved with Jenkins, or if you're already involved, you already knew about it. But it's happening the 23rd through the 25th. It's all sorts of weird times and lots of other, they've already called out the different things that are happening. So figured
And
to call it out.
I'm looking at the people there.
Yep.
Yeah, those are cool people. You should go.
Kara's there, Mark Waite. I do a lot of stuff with Mark in the day job. Tim is amazing. And then it's just, there's there's a lot going on. So 48-hour period happening next week. Talk about roadmap stuff, all the things. So if you're even just a little bit into Jenkins, you should join up and just see what's going on. It's that time of year. So the podcast for next week, I have not even started editing it yet. It has something to do with events. That's the only thing I remember. The working title is eventing, one word. So I haven't even listened to it enough to figure out what we're going to do with it. So that's my weekend this weekend. And you've got what? You've got 2 videos for next week.
Yeah, I think they will be a bit different this time.
It's going to be hard to top that Crossplane one.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I mean, you can always top yourself, I guess.
yeah, it's iterative improvements. But next week, I think it will be, and more maybe the next couple of weeks will be very different from my end, because I have something I committed to some class at one of the universities about what is DevOps, and I need to put. And I'm late. I didn't prepare it. It's embarrassing. So I need to work on preparing it. So probably I will convert that work into some videos which are going to be with no terminal screen sharing in the videos.
Wow. That would be very
what
different.
What is DevOps? Probably boring for many, but hey.
Is it going to be in person, or are you doing it just
in both?
Blackboard? Are you going to do both? Wow.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it will be
in-person.
streamed, but I will be in person in university. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow is when you have time to prepare. I'm used to winging it at conferences, but kind of giving real university lecture and winging it for 4 hours, kind of like there is also a limit. I can wing for an hour. Maybe I can get away with hour and a half, but 4 hours of improvising, that's a bit tough.
Do you get any kind of breaks in 4 hours?
I have no idea.
That's some pretty dry material. What is DevOps for 4 hours?
Yeah. You'll see. I mean, it cannot be only, I cannot speak what is DevOps only for 4 hours, so it will need to go into other topics, but that's it. Probably first hour will be, what is DevOps? Let me tell you a story. Long time ago, in 1990s.
Before all of you were born.
Yeah. When
That's
most of us were... Today, many of us are desperate in our jobs, but in 1990s, most of us were desperate. So the situation is slightly better now.
That's going to be a riot. I can already see it. Okay. Let me make sure I don't have anything else on the list. By the way, going back to just a bit of correction, Linode is hourly pricing.
Cool.
Just so I don't forget that. Okay, so I've got all that. Yep, that's everything. Let's wrap it up because we're at the top of the hour. You've got to get to work. I've got to get back to work. So next week we should be back at our more normal time. I haven't looked at your calendar yet, so I'm not sure for real.
Yeah, probably.
It probably will not be this early. Not that this is early, because it's, what is it, 3 o'clock where you are now?
3 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Exactly. Just the right time to start your day.
I wish my day was half over, but it's not. Okay. Everybody have a great weekend. Be watching for the podcast on Wednesday, and we'll see what it is, because I have no clue. Other than it's about eventing, and we'll go from there. We'll talk to everybody next week. Have a great weekend. See ya.